Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another discussion video. This is kind of a mixture of kind of like competitive discussion mixed with like DBS history. Today we're talking about how Storm was able to dominate Dragon Ball Super. It comes down to one very fundamental thing, and we're going to talk about that in today's video. Guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video like this. If you want to help the channel out, there are a lot of free ways to do that. You could like a video, you could watch an ad, maybe if you want to buy the cards you see in today's video, you could also check out the link in the description to my TCG player and Beard Collectible affiliate link. With that being said, we're going to get right into this video. So in the beginning, before Storm was really Storm, we got one card leaked. This is before the rest of the engine ever came out, if you guys know what I'm talking about. But if you guys are brand new to this, the first card we saw in the Goku's Lineage lineup was Scrambling Assault Son Goten. It was a BCC promo back when they used to do BCC promos. They were like little promos you got at locals, and they kind of stopped doing them after a while. But anyways, 2-drop 10k auto. When this card attacks, look up 3 cards on top of your deck, choose up to 1 card among them, add it to your hand, then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So that search effect is powerful. Look at the top 3, add anything. That is pretty strong. It's a little similar to what we see today in like Surge Piccolo. Look at the top card, decide if you want it, put it away. We've seen scry effects like this before, but for a 2-drop 10k, that's not overly impressive. And I think most people probably agree with me. A 2-drop 10k that does that, paying 2 for that is not super impressive. But eventually, when set 4 came out, we saw this bad boy, Bardock the Progenitor, Goten's grandfather over here. Bardock the Progenitor was the card that, well, one of the cards, I guess, that made this deck really function, and we'll explain why. So it's a 1-drop yellow 10k. So keep in mind that 10k does threaten an unawakened leader in almost every single matchup you can think of. So that's pretty relevant. So auto, when you play this card, choose 1 card in your life, add it to your hand. So it's a 1 energy self-awakener. Swap to Goku's Lineage with energy cost of 2, which Son Goten Scrambling Assault is a Goku's Lineage with energy cost of 2. So you got to think about it logically in terms of like how the energy and how the card advantage plays out. So 1 energy Bardock the Progenitor, you play it, it's a 10k that threatens a leader, and it takes a life. And then for 0 energy, swaps into a 2-drop Scrambling Assault Son Goten. So suddenly, that 2-drop 10k attack, scry, look at the top 3, add anything, became a 1 energy that also got you a card off of a life, and 2 attacks. So basically you play Bardock for 1, you take the life, you attack, and again we threaten unawakened leaders with this card. So that's 1 attack for 1 energy and you got a card. Then for 0 energy investment, you go into Scrambling Assault Son Goten, and then you attack again, and then you look at top 3, add any card. So that went from a 2 energy get a card attack to 1 energy get 2 cards attack twice. So that comes down to the fundamental point of what we're talking about in today's video. That is number of actions for least amount of energy possible. This is the fundamental principle that aggro decks in this game operate by, and we're going to talk about more aggro decks as we go through this video, but we're explaining Storm here. So you got to keep in mind too that when Storm was popular back in set 4 when it first really came out, and then dominated for a long time after that, this was really before the counterplay format. This is really before control decks were really good. Aggro was really at the top of the game. I mean, if you look back to the first ever nationals of this game, Storm absolutely dominated. It was a Storm mirror match in the finals. Shenron had just came out, but it really wasn't the right pick, even though there were a few defensive tools it can use. But Storm really was the only pick in that format. And as we go through the card pool, we'll explain why. So Unyielding Spirit Trunks. So we just talked about the 1 energy, get 2 cards, attack twice. Very efficient in terms of an aggro deck. Unyielding Spirit Trunks was a card that's been very popular since the beginning of the game, came out in set 2, but it really wasn't broken until Storm really took advantage of it. So during your turn, when you combo this card, your leader is blue, choose up to 1 of your energy and switch it to active mode. So we talked about this already. 1 energy, get 2 cards, get 2 attacks. Now think about 0 energy, get 1 card and 2 attacks. That's what this came down to with this formula right here, because the card you got off of Goten, let's just say it was a Trunks or anything else basically, you would then combo the Trunks typically on the Goten attack, restand that energy you used to play the Bardock initially. Now your 1 energy 2 attacks became 0 energy 2 attacks. You did lose a card in the process, but overall you're +1 in advantage because the Bardock and the Goten both got you new cards. So losing the Trunks doesn't really hurt you in terms of the card economy. So you can see here how this is such an oppressive aggro engine, especially when you consider the fact that there were just no good defensive tools back then until like Clash of Fates set came out. And then when you add the legendary flu on top of that, activate main. If your card is blue, choose up to one of your opponent's or your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 3 or less. return it to the owner's hand. If that card was your own battle card, draw one. So on top of all this, now you have this self-propelling loop of Bardock swapping into Goten, Bardock swapping into Goten, and then Unyielding Spirit Trunks untapping energy. Now, if only there was a way to get that Goten back to your hand so you could instantly replay it with the Bardock that you just got the energy ready again for, that's where Legendary Flute came in. You would bounce the Gotens back to your hand, you would draw a card, so you would cycle a card out of your deck, see a new card, and then you would be able to, again, swap into Bardock into Goten because you use Unyielding Spirit Trunks to untap that energy. Now, notice every single one of these cards on the screen here would eventually become banned. It was pretty crazy how powerful and how efficient this aggro engine really was. Now, couple that with the leaders they played him with, or Hirudegarn. The Unawakened Tide was insane for its time. Attack, discard a card, draw two. I mean, we see that now with like Red Yellow Surge Goku, but back then this was the most powerful leader in the game, arguably, because it just did the most powerful thing. The backside is also good for killing your opponent's advantage, but you were playing an aggro deck that was typically killing your opponent like turn 2, turn 3, so that didn't come up all that much. And then eventually Storm would be played with Broly the Awakened Threat, which was an insane leader before it got errated. You used to be able to take a life, restand any one card on your board. That could be your game-ending threat, that could be an energy so you can keep going, that could be your leader attack to go for like a Furthering Touch and Champa play. Like, there were just so many powerful things that surrounded this deck, but the main core of it, Goten, Bardock, Trunks, and Flute, those were the main things that allowed you to complete a ton of actions for basically no energy. Flute, free. Unyielding Spirit Trunks got you back energy. Bardock, Goten, an insane 1 energy play. I don't think I need to restate that again. So this is basically the pinnacle of an aggro deck. Now, could Storm ever come back? I don't know. I mean, there are a ton of aggro answers in the game now because aggro was so strong back then, but for how efficient this is, I don't know if it could ever come back. It is crazy powerful. We're gonna talk about some of the modern day comparisons, which are still pretty crazy powerful, so maybe Storm would kind of fit right in there. But anyways, if we progress, eventually we got these two cards in the Clash of Fate theme booster, Son Goku Striving to be the Best and Burnished Bonds Borgos. Now, the reason these cards were so good for their time is because they were the real first answers to a deck like Storm. Son Goku Striving to be the Best is a 2-drop blue barrier permanent. Your opponent battle cards with energy cost 2 or less can't attack. And then Burnished Bonds Borgos, when your opponent would offensively untap energy by a non-awaken effect, you could kill one of the energy. So basically that prevented you from using Unyielding Spirit Trunks, it prevented you from using offensive Sensu Beans, and then Goku would prevent the Bardock Progenitors from attacking, and it would prevent the Son Gotens from attacking, alleviating some of that pressure. Now, these cards weren't enough to kill Storm in their respective days because there were answer cards. There were cards that tap barrier cards. There were cards that answered 1-drops pretty easily. So keeping that in mind, these cards weren't perfect answers, but they were the beginning of what we would see in terms of anti-aggro. Now, if we go to some more modern aggro comparisons, one of the decks I love to talk about on this channel, Demigra. It's such a cool aggro deck, and that's partly because it's so reminiscent of Storm. Storm back in the day, like what I just talked about, you would play guys, attack, untap energy, play guys, attack, untap energy. You're not typically untapping energy in a deck like Demigra, but you are spamming a really wide board, like how Storm used to just spam the board full of Gotens. So Demigra, if you think about it in terms of what you get for your energy, it's pretty crazy. So Demonic Overlord, for 2 energy, you get a Gravy and a Poutine out of your deck. So that 1 card turned into 2 cards, also lets you self-awaken, also lets you set up your drop area for Overwhelm. It's a very Overwhelm-centric deck. Poutine then gets you another Demigra. You can go get the Demonic Overlord once again, so that either the same turn if you have the energy, or the next turn you can go right into another play, get another Gravy, another Poutine. And again, Poutine is a 10k attacker, does threaten unawakened leaders. Gravy is a huge beater, so that's pretty efficient. Then when you couple that with all your overwhelms like Time's Choice, Supreme Kai of Time, and other cards that replace themselves when you overwhelm them, you're playing 0 energy 15k beat sticks. Now that is all done, like let's just say you don't even attack with your leader. The Demigra itself gives you overwhelm 3, so for 2 energy that's 3 attackers that are 10k, 15k, and 20k. Then you couple the leader in, attack. If you're able to awaken, you can overwhelm again. It gets really insane with the number of threats you can drop in Demigra, which is why I'm such a big fan of it as an aggro deck. But again, number of actions is super high in the early turns. Now if we look at a deck like Boo, Majin Buu Ghastly Rampage is the main playmaker of the deck. Once you're at 3 energy or more, you're able to go into a 2-drop that lets you go into a 4-drop 15k dual attacker, that lets you go into a 5-drop double strike, then a 5-drop 25k crit, and then you end on that with a 6-drop. So that was 6 threatening swings right there just off of 2 energy, which again is a crazy amount of actions. Couple that with Turles, which is always seen in the Boo deck. That is a 0 energy 10k dual attacker. 10k again might seem small, but it does threaten unawakened leaders, which is so important. Sometimes people will go overboard with the Turles effect. If your opponent's leader is unawakened, you don't have to use the Turles effect. The 10k power is still relevant. Your opponent either takes a damage or has to combo 5k to get out of it. And one of the other modern examples I want to talk about, Reboot Gohan. Now, where does this deck generate its actions? Mostly in the leader, which is actually pretty insane because of how uninteractwithable leaders generally are. You can't stop them with arrivals. You can't tap it down with time magic like you can a battle card. The number of actions you can generate with a leader is pretty much endless, which is pretty insane. And then couple that with the blue-green variant, which in my opinion is the best variant of Gohan. I think a lot of people would agree with that. You have Senzu Bean, which even in Storm was a problem, untapping energy offensively. And this is not at all a point to say Senzu Bean should be banned. I don't think Senzu Bean should be banned at all. But I'm just explaining how Senzu Bean gets you back energy that you'll use for things like Newfound Power Son Gohan. Pay 1, attack 15k crit, Senzu Bean, get the energy back, put it on your leader. Your leader's going to attack 2 to 3 times, so that Senzu Bean stacks up and adds power to your leader. That again, your opponent either takes it or negates it or combos out. And when you have a bunch of 1 energy 15k combos in your deck like Feet Kamehameha and Cell's Earth Destroying Kamehameha, it gets pretty insane. So overall, I kind of wanted to just talk about that today, how number of actions is the number one thing you need to be looking for when you're constructing an aggro deck. If you want to make some type of outside the box aggro deck, let's say it's not Gohan, it's not Demigra, it's not Boo, you need to be generating a very high number of actions per turn. That's where I got the philosophy to create the U7 Gohan deck. I don't think it's quite as aggressive as some of the decks listed here, but the 1 energy dimension support Trunks into the vanilla, that's 2 bodies for 1 energy. That's pretty on par for what you're looking for in an aggro deck. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this little DBS history lesson. Hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit about the fundamentals of the game. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys all next time.